All right, we are 12 shows down. We've got one more to go, and it brings all the fans to their feet on Friday night. Fierce Fighting Championship 36. Blake O'Rulian, Zach Partridge for this fight week preview. Zach, we have put together, I should say you have put together quite the show for us all on Friday night. Cannot wait for it.
I mean, wow. I really excited for this one. Close out the year, 13 shows in a year. That's a new milestone for us at Fierce. Never done that many. So really excited. And I think we got a good one, just like we were just talking about. The fights in November were incredible. But man, there isn't a fight on this card that you go, oh, that might go to a decision or whatever. I mean, I think there are going to be a lot of dog fights, a lot of wars, and I think a lot of finishes.
44% of this card is compiled of title fights. So for people who are wondering if this is worth, the bang for your buck, it absolutely is. There's a lot of high implications on this card. There's been 137 fights so far this year. We've got 9 more to go before we close it out. And we started off with Sam Deitman and Caleb Lee, a couple of debuters at 155 pounds.
Yeah, this was a matchup that it almost happened on our last card in Idaho Falls. Um, Things just didn't work out with teammates and stuff going up there. Didn't make a whole lot of sense for two teams to travel to meet in Idaho Falls without any other teammates on the card. So we moved it to this card where Sam has a teammate from SBG Idaho coming down. Their team is always, man, if there's a way to describe it, they're just tough. They're gritty. And they're, so we kind of know what Sam's going to bring just from the background, the team. Like you kind of embody characteristics with your gym. Very similar. Jeremy Horn's elite performance guys, a lot of those guys, very similar, right? Very good on the ground, very good ground games, throw a really clean 1-2. Um, they're about the basics and the fundamentals of fighting. So I think we're going to see two guys relatively green, pretty new to this game, but kicking the card off with a couple of debuters. It's usually most shows, and usually we kick off the shows pretty well.
I got the chance to talk to both of these guys just a couple of days ago, and I'm
Cool.
very impressed with the resumes. It's going to be a good one to kick off the night. All right, someone we just saw 37 days ago, Marco Ramirez, opposite one of your teammates in Aspen Kobayashi. Again, we stay at 155 pounds. I apologize, 35-day turnaround for Marco Ramirez. He makes his return to the Masonic Temple.
I mean, this was so for people that don't know, or if you missed the Marco Ramirez interview that he did with Blake, go check it out on YouTube. But Marco had already signed his contract to fight Aspen when we lost Austin Dew's opponent last month. And he said, hey, can I do both? Because I'll do both. And I was like, well, we're in this kind of weird thing because you're not supposed to fight within 45 days before your previous fight in case of an injury or a medical suspension or something like that. So there's a risk that came with that. I said, well, let me run it by Aspen and his coach, my coach and our team. And when I'm dealing with teammates, I kind of try and remove myself as a teammate and somebody there, and I kind of be the promoter and put it in the coaches and the rest of the team's hands, and just to do that. So I put it in their hands, and they said, yeah, let them do it. Like, when your two debuters are fighting, there's no film on them. There's no, what Caleb and Sam, that filling out process kind of is interesting, or maybe you just, forget the filling out process and go after it. Um, Aspen, his close friend going to be in his corner, Ammon Garcia, and Aldo, they decided, no, let's fight and let's get some film on the guy and let's see what we're dealing with. And then if something doesn't work out, we'll find a different opponent. So that fight had already been agreed to and done before Marco took the fight against Austin Dew, comes out, gets the finish. Great performance going up a weight class. Aspen, uh, Aspen's a stud. He hangs out with Ammon, Hunter, the Calvin and Max Taylor, the brothers. It's those four in Aspen, and Aspen's a stud, and he's I yeah, I'm really excited to watch his debut and the show that Marco put on. I mean, low key for all the other great fights on the card that we're going to talk about, titles, everything like that. Like, I think that could be the fight that kind of could be one of the ones that everybody's talking about at the end of the night.
And what's wild about it is we're talking about a debut versus a guy that's 1-0. You've been singing your praises about Aspen Kobayashi, and we're all very excited for him. Marco Ramirez, he's down 15 pounds as well. We'll see what the power transfer looks like as well, because he finished a much stronger Austin Dew.
I mean, Aspen's tall. He's long for. He has a great frame for 155. He brings a lot of things to the table that just God given ability. But kid's been working really hard. I mean, he has not been training that long, and he's just picked up everything really good. And he's one of those kids that. One of the things that really impresses me with him, it's something. It's like, hey, you're doing this, he will fix it immediately in the round.
Yeah.
Or if you say, hey, you could try this, he will make those adjustments and try it that later that training session. So he's very adept at just evolving, and I'm just really excited to watch this Marco's experience. I mean, Marco was so composed
Yeah.
in his fight. You could just tell how comfortable he was. Um, it's going to be fun. I think that fight's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, it's fight week, so obviously we got to re-record at least something in here, right? Blake O'Reilly and ZACK Partridge, once again, a change to the card, up 15 pounds from welterweight to middleweight. RJ Wilgar will now face Alan Aragon, just decided last night on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful for Alan to step up, and a shout out to all the other people that were considering it, right? A lot of people, I don't know if it's fair to say it by name, but there were a handful of other fighters that were in talks with their coaches that were wanted to test their weight, their cardio. Big shout out to RJ for being super flexible. He's on track to make 170. He's already well below the middleweight limit at 185. And he just wanted to fight and just said yes to the first person that committed, that said, I can make this weight, and I'm down to fight. And RJ stepped right in, and fighters fight. And RJ, win, lose or draw, is going to be better for this experience, I think. And super shout out to Alan Aragon to want to take this opportunity as well.
And it's wild to think Alan Aragon coming off that 11-second knockout, the second fastest finish of 2024, versus RJ Wilgar, who had one of the knockout of the year contenders. If we haven't had so many, he's right there in that top 10, 15 list.
I know, and it's a very interesting, right? We briefly discussed that. You see this a lot. Wrestlers, grapplers, they get a knockout and they fall in love with that, which is, that's definitely where RJ wants to be. But he comes from a great camp that has a lot of really good grappling as well. So I think I'm really excited. Well wishes to Tyler Trump, he got injured in his last hard training day on Friday, which just happens so much, and it's part of the game. And wish him a speedy recovery. And definitely, it's been crazy. We've had 4 guys drop out in the last 2 weeks, all to very legitimate injuries, and, doctor's notes and stuff. And, it's the fight game, and it's worked out. But, I have a lot of appreciation and respect for all these athletes that just go with the flow and just want to fight. Fighters fight, and that's what we're here to do, is put on fights.
All right, we move up 15 pounds to 185. Walker Pelto, Jason Ergel. I feel like these two, Zach, have just been on a collision course for each other for a while, which is insane when you think about the fact that Walker Pelto made his debut in June.
I mean, Jason, Jason had his 7th fight, right? This will be number 8 for him.
No, this is number 7.
This is number 7. Yeah, that's right. So Jason's 4-2 in MMA. Sorry, I was remembering his kickboxing match. So in MMA, Jason made his 6th walk only a few weeks after Walker made his debut.
Correct.
And Walker has already put himself in the title picture. Walker is putting himself in a situation to do something that I don't know if I've ever seen before, where he has gone from June to September to November to December. And if he gets his hand raised on Friday night, he'll go 4-0 in essentially 6 months and become the Fierce FC AMI middleweight champion. Awesome. Jason has fought around. He really wanted to fight for a belt. And I just said, to fight for a belt, he went through a lot of adversity in his fight before he fought for us at Crown. Different opponents, pulls out, fights Michael Pfeiffer on 6 days notice, gets the decision win. They really wanted to fight for a belt. I said, you need to come out and you need to dominate somebody with a good record and you need to come get a finish and dominate. And he came out and absolutely dominated against Bane Varner in July, and he made himself an undeniable number one contender for that 185 title. So, uh, I the stylistically it's interesting, right? Um, Wrestling versus jujitsu, and as well as on the feet, length versus tall, long, rangy, short, stockier, powerful. I think it's going to be a very good fight to end the prelims and to highlight that amateur fight. And the
Yeah,
185 division is so stacked. You got Tyler Call coming back next year after having a baby. He's right there coming off of a win himself in Price. Um, Michael Pfeiffer, like we said, he's 3-1. He's kind of in that mix. Like we have a lot of really good middleweights coming up.
you talk about Jason Earl. He's won 3 of his last 4. And like you said, that July showing was so impressive. I remember doing the post fight interview. I could not believe how good he looked in that one. And then when we're talking about Walker Pelto, just to put a little context into what you said, 181 days removed from his debut. It's the fastest ascent to a title fight in Fierce Fighting Championship history. So, going to
Not
be
surprised.
very, very fun to close out the prelims. All right, let's kick it up to the main card. Reese Banderaga versus David Kim for the 135-pound title. Man, this one, combined record 8-1 between these two. David Kim has been getting ready, but Reese Banderaga is one of the top talents out of all of Idaho.
Yeah, another SPG guy, right? So what did I describe him? He's tough, but not only tough, very talented. And ironically, David Kim's training partner, belt holder at Agema, Logan Taylor from Idaho. His best friend growing up was who? Reese Banderaga. Really interesting, right? That
Yeah.
David wanted so kind of a really fun backstory there. Reese is a stud, very good grappler in his own right. David dropped into one hit over Thanksgiving, and he has a lot of respect for Reese. He's very talented. He knows he's up against a very very tough test. Um, we everybody's David is held in such high regard here in Utah, and he should. He's absolutely one of the pound for pound best amateurs in the state. Um, and everybody talks about his grappling or whatever, and David has a lot of respect for Reese's grappling. I can tell you that, and I think that this could just be a very technical chess match and a lot of fun to kick off this main card.
Both fighters coming off of back-to-back first-round finishes. Also, both of them jiu-jitsu players. David Kim, obviously one of the top grapplers in
Yeah,
Utah. Reese Banderaga, cut from that exact same cloth. He has jiu-jitsu competitions dating back to when he was a young teenager. So that is going to be quite a blast. All right, we close out the amateur title fights with Igor Lakicevic as well as Mark Gonzalez. Mark Gonzalez coming off of that wild sequence that finished it off and gave him the heavyweight title. Igor, just a 17-day turnaround for this one, looking for another belt.
yeah, great. We had to find out about that 7-day turnaround the hard way. So, yeah, didn't love that. But anyways, you can leave that in. I don't care.
Okay.
Um, Mark, I'll give a lot of credit to Mark. He literally just said, "Find me somebody that's going to push me to make me better. I want this to be my last amateur fight, win or lose. I want to be tested. I want a war. I want a dog fight. Find me somebody that's really tough that's going to make me better." Which, there's a saying that I've heard by Chael Sonnen, and I try and tell people all the time: you want the easiest fight where you make the most amount of money and the best placement on a card, right? Like that is the goal. Mark threw that completely out the window. He said, "Find me the toughest guy that's going to push me." Igor brings a very interesting skill set to the heavyweight division. His grappling and you want to talk about a guy that's been grappling. I mean, you go look at his Tapology. He's got a gazillion grappling matches on there alone. Not to mention all the other ones. And obviously 3-0 in MMA now, belt holder in another promotion, coming out from Virginia to Mark's backyard to try and take his belt. And I think Mark's going to get exactly what he looks for. I think Igor is a very tough game opponent. He looks like a freaking grizzly bear in his poster. But Mark's never been one to say no to tough fights. I'll give him that. And he's been willing to fight everybody, and happens to be Igor. So I think we're going to see if Igor can get him to the ground and establish his game and execute his game plan. Um, Mark can keep it on the feet. Obviously, we can see he's got a lot of power in those hands.
Amateurs to the pros, Montana independent, Eric Tier opposite the debuting Michael Trunzo. You spend a lot of time in the room with Michael Trunzo. He's a 2-1 amateur. He now makes the step up as a professional.
Yeah, Mike, a little bit older. He's like, why not? He's fought some tough guys in his own right. Fought Tyler Call, and he's like, he trains with me and Ammon and Cole Faust and all those guys, and he's like, I know where I'm at. Like, if I can get a fair fight at a pro, I'm like, he's at an age where every fight might be his last. Freak, I'm 7 years younger than him, and I feel like every fight could be my last. So he's like, yeah, I want to do something fun, make it exciting, and make my pro debut. And I promised Eric Tier when he took that Andrew Mickelson fight, when nobody would, by the way, nobody. He stepped up and took that fight, and I promised him we'd have him back and we'd give him a fair fight. And that's finding another guy, two guys in their 40s, both walk around 190 pounds, don't want to cut weight, like the young guys do, down to 170. So they just meet at 185. This fight just makes so much sense in so many ways. I'm really excited. Eric is a treat to have at the show. He is a personality and a character and everything. I don't know if I told you this. His one of his requests to me that he'd get to sing his own walkout song as he's walking out.
What?
Yeah.
Break this all
So
down for me. This is all news.
yeah, Eric said, "Hey, can I sing my own walkout?" And I said, "Absolutely not." But I love the idea that that's what he wants to do. So he's fun to have at the shows. I like Eric. I'm into the Lizard Man. I wanted to bring him back. So and then very excited for Michael. He works really hard in the room, heavy handed. He's one of those guys too. Man, when he gets on top of you, tough, hard to get off. For me, impossible to get off pretty much. Just it's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be entertaining.
So just to confirm, Eric will not be singing during his
No,
walkout. Also,
no,
it's a short walkout now with the Masonic Temple. It's like the
true.
fans don't see you until the final steps of it.
That's true. It's going
So
to be the walkout's a little different this time, but yeah,
that is true. I did forget about that. Yeah, you're absolutely
but
right.
it's still, yeah.
I think Eric Tier is like one of the funniest, coolest people. Like just getting
He
to talk to
is.
him.
He's one of the funnest. He's great. He's super cool, super respectful, easy to work with. Love him.
This main and co-main event might be the best 1-2 punch I can remember between Kent Mafileo, Ruben Roundstone, as well as the next two in the main event. It's unbelievable, but we'll go to that one. Ruben Roundstone, Kent Mafileo. We obviously talked to Ruben Roundstone just last week, and he is ready to put on a show. Kent Mafileo's got redemption on his mind after that PFL debut.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting, right? Two different, very motivated men, but motivated for different reasons.
Yeah.
Ruben's son, Atlas, just had surgery. He's at Primary Children's Hospital, um, living here in Salt Lake the last 3 months, I believe. It's just, as a dad and a father, my heart goes out to him and his family, but I love that he's wanted to fight and stay active. And he asked me for this fight. He reached out and said, I want to fight Kent. What do I got to do to fight Kent? And I said, well, just so happens that we're probably having Kent on our February or on our December card. Let's see if we can make that happen. And it worked out. And, I Ruben's tough. You want to talk about a showman? He's a showman as well. Two back-to-back Montana natives making that walk out of the blue corner. Got a lot of love for Ruben. He's been for as much of a character is he's a lot of fun, but for what him and his family are going through right now, you wish him all the best. And as a new father himself, I think Kent has a lot of respect for Ruben and stuff. But we also know Kent, and we know what he's bringing. You talk about bouncing back from that PFL fight. I mean, I guess, but man, I still think Kent's carrying a lot of momentum from that Will Tarpley fight. Like
I agree.
I thought Kent reestablished himself back into his vintage fashion in that fight, and I thought he had a really good performance at the PFL, and he just happened to go through a buzzsaw. And I mean, I think we've talked about it, but I just want to reiterate this: Kent signed to fight a guy So the PFL and Bellator merger has created this hemorrhage of athletes that they can't even get fights. You're seeing a lot of their champions saying, "Hey, get us fights." Like we can't even get fights right now, but they have so many guys on their roster under contract. Nobody would fight that guy. So they have too many guys. They've been cutting and releasing people from their contracts left and right. And because they have too many guys on their roster, but they didn't have a single heavyweight or 205er would come up and fight that guy on short notice. And Kent raised his hand and said that he would. And then I thought he went out and he fought really well against a guy that nobody else wants to fight. So I think Kent's back in his. I I don't feel like Kent lost any steam from shooting that shot. So I'm excited to see Kent back in this venue. I feel like I don't know. I feel like the atmosphere in the Masonic Temple and what Kent brings. I feel like it's just gonna feel so natural and so right for him in there, and you know, establish a new home maybe.
Yeah, I fully echo everything that you said about him as well in terms of the PFL debut. He looked
Yeah.
great in that fight. Him and I have talked about that as well, and cannot wait for that co-main event. That's going to be special. Main event time: UFC veteran Hunter Azure opposite Utah's favorite Joel Haro for the bantamweight strap. Joel Haro looking to get back to the belt that he lost a year and a half, or actually almost 2 years ago at this
Wow.
point. As for Hunter Azure, he is 2-2 since his departure from the UFC, but looking to get back in the win column.
I mean, it's so interesting, right? This is everything like a show like ours regionally wants headlining our cards. The guy that's trying to get to the UFC versus the guy that's trying to get back to the UFC. And both of them are right on the verge. Obviously, Hunter Azure still held in a lot of respect in a lot of circles. Why? Because Vince Morales beats him and gets signed immediately back to the UFC as a short notice option. That win is still respected enough that it got Vince Morales back into the UFC. Hunter is still that guy. He is still that good. A lot of respect for Hunter. I've seen him fight in person at LFA here in Salt Lake City a few years ago. I mean, he is just um, he's a guy that's been around and fought just so many guys. Wins on the Dana White Contender Series, wins over guys like Brad Katona, who's still in the UFC. Um, you know, tough losses over really good guys. I mean, he's just I I I cannot express enough like how respected he needs to be. And right, he has ties to Utah. He lived here, trained here at Jeremy Horn's Elite Performance a while back. So very excited to have Hunter make the walk for Fierce Fighting Championship, and grateful that he's back. Um, yeah, I mean this was the perfect dance partner for somebody like Joel Haro to try and reclaim that bantamweight championship. Joel had an unbelievable camp, super unfortunate circumstance back earlier this year with May. We decided to move on from Mikey Sire and move forward to this vacant title fight. And I think this is going to be one that not just Utah fans, but MMA fans around the country and in the region most certainly will have their eyes on this main event.
Going to be a special one. Tickets on sale right now at fiercefightingchampionship.com. The pay-per-view is also available there as well. Again, 4 title fights, 9 total bouts. The Masonic Temple is going to be booming in just a couple of nights. Zach Partridge, can't wait for it.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, new pay-per-view provider. So when you go on to fiercefightingchampionship.com, you get pay-per-view. There is now a Android app. Hopefully by now, if it's not any day now, an Apple app. You can go on, buy there, create an account, download on Fire Stick, Roku. You can download the Fierce Fighting Championship app, buy the pay-per-view through the website, but then you can watch it on whatever smart TV now, on your phone, tablet, whatever. So that was something that we tried to do to help the fans be able to more easily watch the Fierce Fighting Championship pay-per-views around the region.